You'll be getting everything directly in your inbox. We'll also send you a reminder when the video is up on YouTube. So Derek, I will ask you to go ahead and get started. Got a lot to cover.
Great. Well, I do not have a big formal presentation that we're going to do today. What we are going to do is literally go through the assessment that you should have all gotten, and if not, I'm sure Cece can get you one, and go through sort of question by question and explain what the questions are, what they mean, and why I thought they were important. And this is a little bit of a challenge to figure out what the 20 questions were. And that was sort of Cece's challenge to me. She said, if you could sit down with somebody and only ask them 20 questions to get a feel for do they have their marketing under control or not, what would those 20 questions be? So it was kind of an interesting challenge. So that's basically what I tried to do here. Is if I were to meet with somebody and could only ask them 20 questions, and they had yes and no questions, might I make even more specific, what would they be? So every question on here gets answered with either a yes or a no. If you don't understand the question, the answer is a no. Just understand that. And then you can write reminders to yourself as you're going. And just some information about Cleaning Business Builders. We'll get to that at the end, but it's a partnership between myself, Liz Trotter, and Tom. Now, I'm checking the list of participants, and I know a lot of the people on here, but there are a couple of names that I don't recognize. So there may be a couple people wondering who I am and why I'm doing this webinar. So I'll give you a little bit of my background. I worked at Procter Gamble for 13 years in various sales and marketing roles. And then while I was there, I was working on a team that was doing research on franchising. Procter wanted to do some franchises, and they were really interested in the cleaning industry. Lots of revenue and not a lot of entrenched competition. It seemed like it was a wide open area. Now, P&G decided not to do it because there was too much brand risk. If somebody stole something under the Mr. Clean brand name, it would get in the news and cause all sorts of trouble. But here I am in all these presentations seeing all these numbers, and I go, wow, that's a beautiful business. So I went out and bought a little cleaning service about 7 years ago. It'll be 7 years in November, so yeah, 7 years ago. And at the time, it had about $200,000 in revenue. So I didn't start this business from scratch. I did buy an existing company. And 3 years later, we were $1.2 million in revenue. So we went from $200,000 to $1.2 million in about 3 years. My brother in Dallas saw that we were having a lot of success, so he started an office in Dallas the year after me. So he's been doing it 6 years, and his office is now bigger than mine. He won't tell me the exact numbers. He just keeps reminding me that he's bigger than me, even though he started a year later. So we've had some success in this. Between us, we do just at $3 million in revenue between the two offices now. And I probably would do better, but I got distracted doing consulting and some other things like that. So we're going to jump straight into assessment and the questions there and why I felt they were important. So the first question is, do you understand who your ideal clients are? Yes or no? And what I mean by that, and why I think it's so important, is when it comes to marketing, you really need to market with the end client in mind, and you want to market to their unique needs. And this is something that I didn't invent. This goes back to my good old days at Procter Gamble. What I've popped up on screen is some of Procter Gamble's brands, and this isn't even all of their brands, but they have Wella Pro Series, Head & Shoulders, Pantene, a brand called WellaFlex, and Herbal Essence. And once again, that's not even all of their brands. There's another 7 or 8 shampoo brands. But just in the one company, they've got all these different hair care brands. And at first glance, a lot of times people go, well, why would you do that? Why would you want all those different brands? And the reason why is they stand for different things. Herbal Essence is young and hip. Pantene Pro V's for your professional women. Head & Shoulders mostly for men and people with dandruff. And then these Wella brands are brands that you can only buy super expensive in a salon. And if they tried to advertise that their shampoo worked for everything, all of their ads would be, we clean hair real good, and it wouldn't stand out very well. Instead, the Herbal Essence ads are young and funky and talk about the strong scents, and their products have names like No Flakin' Way and Totally Straight. And then you get over to Pantene, which has much more about profession and science and beauty. Well, in the residential cleaning industry, we don't tend to do that. We tend to advertise to everyone. Everyone's potentially our client. And as a result, we're left saying things like, you know, we clean really good, we have insurance, we background check our people. And when you're left marketing to everyone, you have to market to the least common denominator. What is the thing that's in common in all of them? And it doesn't leave you anything unique to say. But when you pick a target market, someone like pet owners or new parents, now you can start talking about things like reduced chemicals in your home so your kids won't be exposed to chemicals. You can start talking about how you train your people on how to use safety latches so they won't break the doors. So that's why you want to know who your target market is. And then just as important, you should have a written plan for reaching your target clients. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit more detail later on, but that's the second question. It's great to have a target market, but do you then have a plan to reach them? Now, these next ones are all related, and they're all about tracking your metrics. Do you know how many quote requests you get a month? Do you know how many of those quote requests actually get turned into a quote? And then how many of those people do you quote then become reoccurring clients? So these number 3 and 4 sometimes confuse people. So the question number 3 is, do you know how many leads you get? How many people fill out a form on your website and ask for a cleaning quote? How many people leave you a message overnight and ask for a cleaning quote? How many people do you get leads from Home Advisor or Thumbtack? And then what percentage of those do you actually deliver a quote to? And then out of those, what percentage do you book for ongoing service? You can actually affect each of these numbers. It's not a given. A lot of times people will say things like, you know, I call my client quotes and I only get about half of them on the phone. Well, you can control that. We're going to get to that a little bit later on, but the only way you can control it is by tracking it. When you track these numbers, you can do something like this spreadsheet that I have right here that lets you answer some questions like how many new leads per day do you get? And what percentage of those leads book one time, and what percentage of those book ongoing. And what this little spreadsheet does is just let me do some scenarios and say, if I got, in this example, this is a big company, so let's make in this example, it's a big company, and they're getting 1,000 leads a day, or 1,000 leads a year, or about 4 leads a day. So what happens if I double my marketing expenses and get 2,000 leads a year, or 8 leads a day? I can see that this little company, that was 538,000 this year in this column C, would grow to 968,000, 1.14 million, and 1.2 million. I can also come in here and do some things and say, well, instead of concentrating on getting more leads, what if I made it so 65% of my clients booked a one-time clean and 75% of those people booked ongoing service? And you can see you actually get bigger faster. You see how this is 1.2 million and this is under a million? Instead of doubling your leads, to instead work on fixing these close ratios. So you get a better return on investment of your time and your money changing these numbers than you do changing the number of times your phone rings overnight and leaves you a message. So that's why we're asking this. If you don't track those key measures, then how do you know if you're tweaking those percentages and making them better over time? And what you track is what you get. So if you track those conversion rates and you experiment and play with it, you'll discover you can change it. You can adjust pricing. You can adjust how you explain what your program is, which is what the next thing is. Do you have a formal written lead nurture process for following up with all your leads and quotes, even if they don't want to book with you? And what my process here looks like is we call you immediately. We call you within 4 hours after that. We call you the next day, 48 hours later, 72 hours later, 1 week later. We also email you multiple times. We will email you again a full year out. So we reach out to you 6, 7, 8, 9 times often. So that's what the next question is. Does your lead nurture process have at least 6 attempts to contact them over a minimum of a 4-week period of time? If you don't, it's not sufficient. There's research that says only 4 to 5% of customers actually convert to sales at the first attempt. You don't get the big numbers like 80% until you do 5, 6, 7, 8 attempts. So you've got to have a formal process to follow up on them. And follow up doesn't mean you call them once and leave them a message. I'll give you a very specific example, and this example happened in real time in my foundations class the other day. I have a process where when I give somebody a quote, I email them 1 year later to remind them that their quote is expiring. We had emailed somebody on October 7th and said, hey, just FYI, your quote's expiring as of tomorrow. If you want service, you're going to have to get a new quote. That's all the email said. She wrote us back and said, you know what, I'm not happy with the company I chose. I'd love to give you guys a try. Can you come out Friday? So that was a dead customer to me. That is somebody which I had quoted a year ago, put in a file cabinet and said, she's not going to go with us. She even told us she picked another service. So we put it in a folder and moved on with it. But part of our process is we reach out to them 3 months later, because in our experience at 3 months is when maybe you decided the cleaning service you hired wasn't as good, and then we try them at a year. And we got this person to convert 1 year later. Now, does that happen with everyone? No, it happens 3-4% of the time. But I go back to this little spreadsheet, a 3 or 4% change makes a big difference. So I'm going to go reset all these numbers so you can see what I mean. If I only get 3% more quotes, that still increases my revenue. Something broke on there. By $50,000 in the first year, and several years out by $80,000. So that one idea of reaching out to somebody at the 1 year mark converts 3 to 4% extra leads. Well, 3 to 4% extra leads over time is $30,000 to $50,000 per year, and then that accumulates over time. 10 years later, that's $300,000, $400,000 from a single idea. That's how you make money in this business, is in the margins and in tweaking those numbers to really drive things forward. Okay. The next question we ask is, are you able to track your leads? Which basically means when people call in, do you ask them where did they hear about you, and do you formally track it? And then just as important, do you review it on a regular basis? And I do it about once every 6 months here. And the reason why is the market changes and things change. One of our #1 source of leads used to be a coupon pack. When I first started this business in 2008, one of our best sources was something very similar to Valpak. It was a local company called AdMail, but it was like Valpak, where you'd open it up and there'd be a bunch of coupons in there. I used to get a really good return on investment on that. And every 6 months we would do our math, and over time we would notice that it would get a little bit more expensive because postage always went up, and our response rate would drop a little. And it would get a little more expensive, and our response rate would drop a little, et cetera. To the point that 3 years ago, we suddenly weren't generating enough revenue to make it make sense. So in a period of just 4 years, because I started 7 years ago, we went from that being one of our most successful, in fact, I believe it was my single most successful way to get customers was with direct mail, to 4 years later it wasn't working. And the reason why is consumers changed. Other cleaning companies got their coupons in the same book, and the expense went up over time. It's also a good way for you to notice maybe problems in your business in other places. We don't always have time to go out there and search all of the different ways we appear on the internet. But if you're used to getting 5, 6, 7 people a month saying, I found you on Angie's List, and then when you check your report and it says, gosh, I'm not getting any Angie's List referrals, I wonder what happened. And you go over and poke around, you might discover that your Angie's List rating dropped, or somebody's advertising, or something else. So not only do you want to be able to track your lead sources, but you want to be able to review your lead sources and their results on a regularly scheduled basis, because this business always changes. And just when you think you've got it figured out, you don't have it figured out. So something will change. They'll introduce a new piece of technology. They'll move something around, and they'll mess with you. So my next question is, do you know the top 5 most searched phrases on Google for services like yours in your local area? And I don't mean what is the #1 search phrase in the country. I mean in your local area. There are dialect differences. Here in Cincinnati, we tend to see the phrase maid service searched for more than anything else. In Dallas, they tend to be called house cleaners, and they also, some people Google the phrase domestic servants. That never gets used up here in Cincinnati, but that actually pops up down in Dallas. So different markets, now not top 5, but that's not even on my list in Cincinnati. In different markets, you're going to see different words and phrases that are going to pop up. There's different regional dialects, different ways that people think about things. There are tools that Google provides you, both within the Google AdWords and Analytics program, and they also have a really cool program called Google Trends, where you can go out and play with it and see what the trends are in various keywords. What are the most popular? How do they compare to others? So you should really know what the 5 most top search phrases are for your industry. And then the next question is, are you on the first page for all 5 of those key search phrases? Because if you're not, most consumers aren't going to find you. They're just not. It's how it works out. So the next question on that is sort of related to the previous one. Do you blog at least twice a month? And do you use keywords and geographies in the blog text? So I'm going to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So good old-fashioned Google search here. I did house cleaning Cincinnati, and up here we've got our AdWords people pay for. We've got Thumbtack. It's hard to appear above Thumbtack. Mr. Green Cleaning. Then we've got Google Plus, which we're going to come back to later. And then like number 4 is my maid service. So on the phrase house cleaning Cincinnati, we are number 4. On the phrase maid service Cincinnati, we pop number 1. Now there's a couple reasons for this. When you think about it, the name of my company is My Maid Service. So my website naturally says over and over again, maid service, maid service, maid service. We don't appear as high in the phrase house cleaning because it's not the name of my company and it's not natural for us to say it. One of the ways that you correct that is by blogging. And when you write blog topics, I like to describe it as kind of doing sort of like those ad-lib games when you were kids. Do you ever do those where it said put in a verb here and a noun here and a proper noun here? That's sort of how I blog. I have a whole list of keywords that I want to appear in the Google universe for. So I'll have, for example, I do carpet cleaning, so I'll have a carpet spot. And then I have a list of geographies, Cincinnati, Blue Ash, Westchester, Hamilton. And I'll say, gosh, I haven't used the Hamilton recently. So I'll write a blog on carpet spotting in Hamilton. So the first line of the blog will say something like, so I was talking to a client in Hamilton the other day, and she asked me how to get a T-spot out of her carpet. In the first sentence of my blog, I've made sure that when that little Google search engine crawls my page and classifies all the words, it's going to find the name of a city, and it's going to find the name of a keyword that I want to go after. Another reason why blogging is really important is Google takes 2 kind of contradictory things into account when it ranks your website. Well, it takes a bunch of things into account, but there's 2 of them that are contradictory. One of which is how long has your website been in existence? You know, they understand that companies come and go, but someone who withstands the test of time is probably more legitimate than someone who doesn't. So the longer your website's been around, the better. There's not much you can do about that. If you just launched your website last week, you can't fix that. The contradictory part of it that you can fix is how frequently is your website updated. So what Google likes to see is a website that I always use is CNN. Google loves CNN. It's been around since the dawn of the internet, and they update the website multiple times. And the reason why that's important to them is think if someone put a website up and didn't update it for 6 or 7 years. It's just not so relevant anymore. It's old information. Google wants to give the most relevant, most modern information. So it wants an old website that's withstood the test of time, but is constantly updated. By blogging, you accomplish that because Google will notice that you have changed your website. You're putting new, more exciting stuff out there, but you're still maintaining that your website's been around for a long time. You know, it's hard to go in and change your homepage every day, but it's easy to write a new blog topic. And you need to do it about twice a month. That's what makes Google happy. That's about the frequency from everything we've read and experimented with, that it's enough that Google goes, I like you. You're a good company. And try to hit different words and phrases in your blog. Don't say the same thing over and over again. And once again, it's pretty simple. Take a list of all of the phrases that if somebody searched for you, affordable cleaning services, how to select a cleaning service, and then a list of the cities, and each of your blog topic should have one of each in it. So I was in the Whole Foods in Norwood yesterday, and while I was there, I saw all the natural cleaners. It made me think about how to make natural cleaning products for your own home, and then you write a blog topic on it. It also helps you come up with topic ideas as you sit there and play Mad Libs, because you can say green cleaning, blue ash. Okay, how can I write about green cleaning and blue ash in the same topic? All right, next thing is steam cleaning, blue ash. All right, and you just keep messing with it and playing with it. If you do those things and you know what your key search phrases are, and you include those search phrases in your blog, and you do it twice a month, you're going to find over time you're going to move up Google. Okay. Do you have a basic website? That's my first question. Hopefully you guys all understand why that's important. But my next question is your website responsive to view on mobile phones and tablets? And the reason why is 40 or more % of views to websites now are coming on smartphones and tablet devices. It's important for a couple of reasons. The first one that most people get is that when it shows up on a smartphone, you want it to be easy to read. If 40% of the people are going to be landing on your website, you want to actually be able to look at it, zoom in, make some changes, and be able to see it. Now, if you look at your website on a smartphone and you have to do the little reverse pinch to zoom in to read, then you're not responsive for viewing on a mobile phone or tablet. You should be able to actually read the website without zooming in on a mobile phone or tablet for that to matter. Now, there's another reason why that's really important. First of all, it's pretty important because 40% of the people are going to see your website that way, so of course you want 40% of the world to see that. But Google takes that into account. 40% of the world is using Google on a mobile device. So what does Google want to do? It wants to make sure that the website that it serves those people is useful. So if your website's not responsive and it doesn't look good on a mobile device and it's not usable on a mobile device, you're going to get penalized by Google. They're going to say, well, gosh, I don't want to send people to your website. Almost half of the people I'm going to send you aren't going to be able to use it. And so they don't want to send you the traffic. So now not only is almost half of the world have a hard time reading your website, Google's not even sending the other half of the world to your website because it's not looking good. We had an experience with one of our websites that was not very responsive it wasn't responsive and it looked really bad on a smartphone, and we were ranking in the 8 to 10 range on all of our keywords. Not bad, still on the search top page, but we were showing up in 8 to 10 for all the phrases: maid service, house cleaning, home cleaning, all the words you can think of. And we made one change, and that is we changed the website so that when you came on a mobile device, you got redirected to a different website. So we created a separate website for mobile devices. 2 days later, all of our Google ratings moved from 8 to 10 to number 1 and 2. And the only thing we changed is that we updated the website so that it was responsive to mobile devices. And it made that radical of a change that we moved from the bottom of the first page to the top of the first page. So if your website isn't responsive for viewing on a mobile phone and tablet, it's killing you because most people are getting their information online now. So our next question: have you claimed your Google business listing? It used to be called Google Places. And is your Google business page updated on a regular basis? Now this is new. Those of you that are on here, this is actually pretty key, and I should have taken screenshots of my cell phone to show this to you. But this is what I'm talking about. When you come here and you type Maid Service Cincinnati, okay, the top 3 are ads. We all get that, right? Well, this next part are the Google business listings. So all that time and effort and backlinks and blogging and all that crazy stuff that you do to end up number 1, which, by the way, I'm number 1, I'm right here, actually puts me under this section right here, the Google business listing. These listings are 100% free from Google, 100%. All you need to do is go out and claim it. And if you haven't claimed it, you need to do it, because if you don't, a vendor like Yext or somebody like that can claim it and cause you all sorts of problems in the future. Even a competitor can potentially claim it. I know someone who had a competitor claim their listing and change the phone number to the competitor's number. Now, the other thing that Google is going to do is integrate a Google Plus page into your listing. And Google Plus, at first, doesn't seem that important because Google Plus is basically Google's version of Facebook. And everyone's like, oh my God, Derek, nobody uses Google's version of Facebook. Well, Google knows that, and they're smart people there. It's a big company with a lot of money. So what Google has done is they've taken Google Plus and made it appear with your local listing. And if you've got a smartphone right now, I should have taken a screenshot of this. I want you to go on your smartphone and look up cleaning service in your city on your smartphone. And what it's going to do is pull up a page. And if you click on the businesses listed on that page, not the little link that says website, but the actual name of the business, which seems sort of like the logical thing to do, Google is actually at that point going to take you to their Google Plus listing. They're not going to take you to the website unless you click on the little button that says website. Now, just to show you how powerful this is, in the last 12 months, this Google Plus page has been viewed 24,690 times. We are number 1 for phrases like house clean or like home cleaning Cincinnati and a lot of other really important key phrases. I get about 400 to 500 visitors to my website a month, even though we're #1 on all those key phrases, which is about 6,000 to 7,000 visitors a year, which, you know, isn't great, but it's not bad for a city like Cincinnati. We're already #1 on the listing, so how does that get any better? Well, guess what? My Google Plus page gets viewed 4 times as much. So you need to get this page, and you need to look good and actually try to sell your business for you. If you don't, you're missing out on a big freebie. The more you fill out that Google Plus page, the more information you put on it, the more reviews you have, the more likely that Google is going to serve you on the top of the page like it does. Once again, Google wants to put out relevant information. If you have a Google page that hasn't been claimed and has no activity, they're much less likely to display it. I guarantee you there's more than 4 cleaning services in Cincinnati, but they're putting up the cleaning services they've chosen to display because we have activity on our pages, it's updated, and it's got reviews and things going on with it. Okay? That's probably, if I can only tell people one thing to do right now, is they need to go out and they need to get their Google business listing claimed, and they need to start working with Google Plus. You know, I know some people that are very good at Facebook marketing and generate a lot of business off of Facebook. I'm not saying it can't work, but I know a lot more people that make a lot of money by making sure their Google Plus listing is right first, because that's what Google is serving up to consumers. Okay, next question. Do you know what your market share is? And people always kind of go, wait a minute, what do you mean my market share is? There's a relatively simple calculation that you can do that'll help figure out what the total average market for residential cleaning services are in your city. Then you can figure out what your revenue is and what percentage of that are you. Here in Cincinnati, Ohio, we're at about a 4% market share. So as good as I think we do, and I think we've got a nice big company, I've only got 4% of the market. That makes me feel pretty comfortable that I've got a lot of upside where I can grow. I've worked with some other cleaning services that have 40, 50, 60% of their market when we sat down and did the math. In those cases, when it came time to give them advice, the advice was you need to expand your geography, open a new office, add some more zip codes. Because at a certain point, if you've got too much market share, it's hard to grow much more. And it's also just interesting to help you understand what we used to call it at Procter Gamble, how high is the sky? Because, you know, if the sky is the limit, okay, how high is the sky? Is the total market in Cincinnati, I can't remember the number now, I should be able to reverse engineer this. The total market in Cincinnati was like $30 million for residential cleaning services. I don't remember the exact number, but it was 25 to 30 million. So if I say my goal is to have a $10 million company, which it is, I probably can't do that in just Cincinnati because in the major metro market, it's unlikely anyone's going to dominate a third of the market. It's just too much competition. The best I feel I can hope for in Cincinnati is about a 10% market share or a $3 million business. So if I want a $10 million business, then I've got to look into opening in other markets. So do you know your market share? Do you know how to calculate it, et cetera? If not, then that's some things that we can help with. Okay. Do you have an annual marketing budget? And your annual marketing budget, a lot of people ask me, what should it be? Well, most marketing nowadays, to be honest, is about time. You do not need to spend a bunch of money on marketing anymore. You need to blog, you need to do press, you need to update your website, you need to update your Google listings, you need to update your Facebook page, you need to do your social media. That doesn't need to cost you anything except your time. So your marketing budget is basically driven off of how much time do you want to spend on marketing, and if you're not going to spend time on marketing, how much are you going to spend to have someone else spend time on it for you? Because what you're really buying here is just like we sell free time, marketing services are really providing you with free time at this point because you could be out there doing it yourself. And I'm a marketing guy. I outsource almost everything else in my office. If you guys want to ask me what vacuum we use, I don't even remember anymore. I'm not involved in that. But I do all of the marketing because I love it. If you're the opposite of me and you really like the execution part of the business, maybe you should have an annual marketing budget and some amount in place. You want to know what it is and you want to plan for it because if you don't have a plan, it gets out of control and it makes it very easy for you to fall for every salesperson who comes into your office and makes you promises. If you sign up for my service, you're going to get a great ROI. We're going to triple the number of leads that come in. And at the end of the day, they can't really do it. And then do you have an annual marketing plan with expected outcomes and ROI projections? Yes or no? And the reason why I have that is you should have a plan for the year. I like to have a nice written plan. What am I doing on Constant Contact? What am I doing in live events? What Google AdWords am I buying? Am I doing Home Advisor? What am I updating on my website? What does my marketing plan for the year look like? Because if I don't plan for it ahead of time, life gets busy. People start popping up and asking questions and pulling me into things. So if you don't go into the year with a written marketing plan, you're going to have a very hard time executing. And once again, if you don't have a plan, it's going to be very easy for your plan to be dictated by who walks into the door. So we spend about 4 or 5 hours at the beginning of each year and come up with what our plan is. What emails are we going to send out? And for things like Constant Contact emails, we load all those promotions early in the year. January is a slow month in my business. It snows a lot here. No one likes to get their house cleaned in the snow. Seems like a waste of money. So in January, we use that slow time to load all of our Constant Contact emails so that they're automated, so that when Mother's Day comes, we don't even think about it. The week before Mother's Day, an email goes out and we go, oh, yeah, we're doing a Mother's Day program, aren't we? Make sure to copy my office so that they know that, and we send that out. So you want a plan. Now, one question that Cece argued with me on this and pushed on me a little bit is she said, Derek, you should be calling this 20 questions for internet marketing because that's all you talk about is internet marketing. Well, it's not really true. I do talk about internet marketing because I say you need to know your key search phrases, you need the blog, and you need to have your Google listings right. And the reason why is because 70% of consumers find cleaning services on the internet. 70% of them get their cleaning service from the internet. So I'm sorry, you have to do the internet. When I'm only given 20 questions, you have to do the internet. It's just not optional. So that's required. Now, these other things about do you have an annual marketing plan and know what your expected ROI projections are, there are other things that you can do. I still do a little bit of direct mail. I do a lot of public relations. I do Constant Contact. I even still do door hangers because door hangers give me a great return on investment. But I track them all. Remember we talked about tracking your lead sources above. So I track my lead sources, track their return, and then I say these 6 work, these 6 don't work. Let's keep doing the 6 that work. So I don't necessarily prescribe to you what you need to do. And the reason why is it's different by area. I can't say you must do door hangers. In McKinney, Texas, where my brother does most of his business, door hangers are illegal. He can't do them. Here in Cincinnati, Ohio, I can door hanger till I run out of time, till the end of time. There are no laws against it. People don't get all moody when there's one on their door. There's not a bunch of homeowners associations. So door hangers have a great ROI, so they're part of my plan in Cincinnati, but not my plan down in Dallas. So that's why you don't see me asking questions like, do you have a door hanger plan? Do you have a direct mail plan? Because you might get different results in different places. Even within Cincinnati, we see different results to direct mail in different areas. I direct mail to one part of town because I find in that one part of town they are very responsive to direct mail. Yet I've dropped all the other parts of town because they're no longer responsive, because I've been tracking it over time and see. And I know this all seems so terribly tedious, all of this tracking, but it's really not that hard. Part of our form when you call us is we have a little spot that we fill in that says, how did you hear about us? And then we put it all on a spreadsheet. And then from there, we are able to see where are these coming from. It takes us maybe an hour a month. And for that hour a month investment, I can figure out where do I get most of my leads from and what can I change to make it better. By far, number one is always Google and Internet. And then after that comes everything else, and we try to figure out what we can adjust, what we can tweak, and what we can move. So the final step on this, for those of you that didn't do it, is you simply go through and you count up all of your assessments and you put how many yeses you have here. So how many yeses did you have November of the year? 6 months from now, 6 months after, 6 months after that. And the reason why is this business, just like it's a business of margins, is also about progress and tweaking things over time. If you try to take on everything at once, you'll never get it done. What we always recommend people do is hit one project, then another project. Once you get good at blogging and it becomes natural to you and it's just automatic, at that point you move on to the next step. Or maybe your first step is that you track your lead sources and your return from leads. Or it's going out and claiming your Google Plus account and making sure you put a whole bunch of information out there. because if you don't have it now, that'll probably get you the quickest return on investment. Only once that's done do you move to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. So I ran through a whole bunch of stuff real quick, and I'm going to jump back to some spreadsheets here in a couple minutes to illustrate some things. But I was going to ask Cece, because I don't pay that much attention, can you tell me any questions that came in that I need to hit?
I sure can. We had a little confusion about where you should be showing up in a Google search. Specifically the difference between those first 3 listings that are sometimes highlighted in a color and the listings that come after that. What's the difference?
Sure.
And what are the different activities that get you in those different lists?
Yeah, there's basically 3 parts to a Google page. So these are Google AdWords. All of these things that say Google Ad, they're on the top and then down the right-hand side. Those are pay-per-click programs. And I didn't get into AdWords because you may or may not need to do it. That's one of the things that I don't ask about. But if these people are actually paying to be here. So if I click on these, they're going to pay some amount per click. Some things that people don't all understand about that is there's something called a quality score tied to your AdWords account, where the more often people click on your ad, the less expensive each click is. So Google, when you think about it, is selling advertising space. They're not selling clicks. They're selling that they have 3 slots at the top of this page. So they want to generate as much revenue as they can per click. So this Molly Maid ad is at the top of the page, and what Google's done is done some simple math that said they're offering me $20 per click, and 1 out of 100 people clicks on their advertisement. Therefore, if I send 100 people to this page, I'm going to get $20 for it. These guys down here probably bid the same $20 that Molly Maid's up here did, but their advertisement only gets clicked on once per 1,000 pages. So now Google goes, well, wait a minute, if I send the same 100 people here, these guys are bidding $20, but they're only clicked on 1/10 as much, so I'm only going to get $2. So they put them second. So AdWords has 2 things that matter. How good is your ad written so that people are likely to click on it, okay? And that's called your quality score. And how much are you willing to pay per click? And that ends you up here. You pay for that. This next section is the Google My Business listing. And you can go to Google My Business and see this. And they've changed the name on this like 3 times. People call it Google Places. They call it Google My Business. Current name is Google My Business. And it's basically a free business listing. Think of it as like when you used to get the free listing in the yellow pages. And one of the most important things is that your ad is claimed. And what that means is you went through a process where you went on there and said, yes, this is me. Google sends you a postcard in the mail with a code. You then log into Google and key that code in, and Google then ties that listing to your Google account so that you can control it. If a listing's not claimed, Google typically doesn't display it first because it's not sure it's legit. Nobody's even bothered to claim it. It's orphan. It's just sitting out there. The business may be closed down. It could be bad data. Okay? So you need to claim it. And then Google doesn't really explain how everything works. A lot of this is from reading between the lines on what they say and what people have seen. But the more active your Google Plus page is and the more reviews you have, the more likely you are to appear. It's also geographically based. It has to be within your service area. So you're not going to appear in an area you haven't selected for your service. So that's the Google business listing. And then down here is natural search engine optimization. So when you think of Googling something and Google giving you results, this is what most people think of. When people talk about search engine optimization and buying links and having people optimize their website for the internet, it's to appear in this part. And so my feedback was, you've got this part up here that you can pay for, which most of us don't want to pay if we can help it. We've got this middle part that appears. That's basically free. It's just about how good of a job do you keeping it updated, how good of a job do you do making sure you've got reviews and information out there. Because if you don't, you're not going to pop up there. So this is all free. And then we've got the search engine optimization, which everyone fights over with things like backlinks and stuff. Now your ideal situation is what I have on this page, Made with Cincinnati. We're #1 on Google Plus, or Google Business, and I'm #1 on natural search. That's what you want, is to actually have both. More and more people are using this section. Google has been building this out over the last couple of years because it's tied very closely to your cell phone. That's when you look up something on your cell phone and it pops up and says, click here for directions, click here to call. That's a Google My Business listing. So when you look things up on Google now, on a cell phone, it directs you to this listing, not a website. They have to make a choice to go to your website. The default place Google is going to take them on a mobile device is not your website, but rather this page right over here on the right. So it's really, really important that you get that right, because a lot of people are spending all this time and money over on their website, but they're doing nothing over here. And I have no idea why it says I have no reviews, because you can see on the right-hand side I've got reviews. I got one as recently as a week ago. But anyway. Okay?
That's what we've got coming through chat so far.
Okay.
Please, if you continue to have questions that you want to ask Derek, we may not be able to get to all of them on the webinar today, but I promise you he will work hard to address them. So if you have questions, there should be a little chat bubble towards the top of your screen. Click on that chat bubble. It'll open up what looks like an instant messaging sort of box, and you can type in your questions there and send them to us.
Well, I played with this a little while ago, and I'm going to go back to this because I like to show people these numbers. And this is, when it comes to growing their business, what everyone always wants to talk about is the number of leads they get. So I want to go back to this spreadsheet since we don't have a lot of natural questions coming in to kind of ground you in what I was talking about. So this is what I'm calling my base scenario, okay? I have a company that's doing $538,000 a year in revenue. They lose about 5% of their customers a month. 35% of their customers book a one-time clean. Half of those people will sign up for regular service. They get 1,000 leads a year, or roughly 4 leads per business day, and they currently have 250 customers. Their average customer generates about $2,152 a year. Think of that as a biweekly customer at about $90 a cleaning, okay? And what this will show you is under this first base area, this company that's $538,000 now, 3 years from now is going to be $621,000. So do you all kind of get that and see that? So now the next thing is I can come over here and I can play with these assumptions and say that, you know what if I just, instead of closing 1/3 of my leads, what if I closed half of my leads? What if that is the only thing I did? Forget marketing all year. I just, like a laser focus, came up with new sales scripts, tweaked my price points, did one and only one thing, and that is upped this ratio from a 1/3 close rate to a half close rate. And what this yellow field here shows you the difference. So the only thing I've changed is a 15% change in my close ratio. So year one, the numbers are the same. Year two, instead of being up to $591,000, I'm up to $753,000, a difference of $161,000. And out at year three, I'm up $250,000. So I generate an extra $250,000, not by changing the number of leads that come in the door, but simply by tweaking how many people that actually come in do I get to book a one-time cleaning. Now, this can get to be a little bit of a hot topic with some people because this lets you play with some ideas of, for example, couponing. A lot of people in our industry don't like couponing. And don't get me wrong, I don't like to lose money any more than the next guy. But in that process I talked to you earlier where I email people and I call them and I email them, what I do after 2 weeks is I send them a coupon in the mail. Because you know what? They didn't book at full price, so who cares? And I'm going to go over to email in real time. This is always a scary thing to do. Hopefully no one's yelling at me right now. All right, Derek, why are you not getting your own top of your page? All right, well, now my email's not cooperating. I'm going to do it somewhere else. It's always fun when you try to do these things on a call. And the reason why I'm doing this is just to show that I make this stuff up. Boom. Okay. This woman who quoted, or we tried to get a quote a while ago, and we never heard from her. She never booked service, so I had a shortage last week. I emailed her and basically said I had a construction cleaning cancel. I've got an opening if you schedule tomorrow. By the way, I didn't have a construction cleaning cancel. I'm kind of fibbing on that. Well, guess what? She responded. And now we've gone through all questions, and she's ready to book service. So this is somebody who I scheduled 3 weeks ago, who there was no guarantee that they were actually going to do business with us, who now is back communicating with me because I offered a discount because after a period of time I hadn't reached them. That's how I get this ratio up, is by working on things like that. Not allowing a 2-week lead to be dead. It's 2 weeks old. It's not dead. It's not dead for me until it's a year out. And that's how I get the extra 15%. Just to give you an idea, I'm doing some playing here. Okay. All right. So I would need to basically do a 40% increase in the number of leads I get to generate the same revenue that I get from fixing my close ratio. So which do you think is easier? To increase your close ratio by working on better sales scripts and training your people, or to get 40% more people to call you in the first place? I think it's easier to tweak this number. Or, you know, if you really want to have fun, you can say, what if I actually got that same 40% increase and I tweaked my numbers? Now all of a sudden I'm looking at numbers that say things like I'm $390,000 bigger than I was before. And this is only a $500,000 company that this is designed around. This is not some monstrous company. This is how you go from being $200,000 to $1.2 million in 3 years, is just by tweaking a couple of these numbers. That's what takes you from a slow growth company to a fast growth company, is changing these ratios. And this is one that people argue with me a lot. One of the things I track is percentage of my first cleans that book regular. I track that because I feel like I can control it. If I have a rock star cleaner who does an amazing job, people who were not considering regular service will buy regular service. I find that different lead sources bring me different type of customers. Some lead sources bring me a lot of one-time cleans. Realtors are great for one-time cleanings. I find they're lousy for recurring clients. So what do? I don't advertise with realtors anymore because I want recurring clients. I don't want people who bring me low ratios. I want people who bring me high ratios. So this is one of the spreadsheets that we use in Foundations, and we actually do one even more complicated and more detailed than this. This is a baby version that gives you an idea of some of the things you can play with. But that's why I say one of the most important things is that you track these numbers, because sometimes people will go, oh my God, Derek, that's not marketing. Well, if increasing your sales isn't marketing, then I don't know what is. So, okay. Any other questions real quick, CC, before we move to the next stage?
We do have a great one that I know you're going to love me for sharing with you.
Yep.
You spent a good bit of time giving an example of market share. How would a cleaning business owner go about determining her market share, especially since our industry doesn't have a dependable set of numbers to use that are publicly available?
Okay. Well, I spent a whole bunch of time doing some research on this and paid for some research studies that were done and things like that. And I'm going off the top of my head right now, so please don't quote this as a given. But the U.S. Census did a questionnaire, and they asked, and this was the best data I found, do you use a cleaning service on a regular basis? Now, they didn't define regular basis. Regular basis might mean quarterly to them. But they asked, do you use a cleaning service on a regular basis? And what the census came back and said was roughly 8 to 10% of consumers in households that make more than $85,000 a year use a cleaning service on a regular basis. Now, there's a lot of things in there. That $85,000 is average income in America. So you have to do a CPI, a cost of living adjustment for your area. Cincinnati is less expensive. So here in Cincinnati, we use $75,000. If I was still in San Francisco, where I was several years ago, before I moved to Ohio, I would be more expensive. I'd be looking at $95,000, $100,000. But the idea is that at the average $85,000 in household income, about 1 out of 10 of those households is going to use a cleaning service on a regular basis. Now, there's some more data that says about 65% of those people say they use independent cleaners and not companies. And depending on whether or not you consider the people that use independent cleaners your market or not, about 35% of that will use a professional company. Now, what I can't answer, and I have never found reliable data on, is the exact way the question was phrased is on a regular basis. And once again, that could be quarterly. That could mean I get my house cleaned every Christmas. But they think of it as I use a cleaning service on a regular basis. And 1 out of 10 at 75,000 in average, not 75, 85,000 in average U.S. income for the household, not the individual, uses it. So does that help? That's off the top of my head. When I teach this in class, I've got more numbers and stuff. So. Cece, you want to shoot me with one more? I saw another one come in at some point, but I missed it.
We did have someone asking you if you'd go over your lead nurture process again. You had outlined it as, 6 to 8 touches over a period of, basically a couple of weeks maybe, and then a year.
Yeah, ours goes on for a long time, and I should have had it to show you guys today. I've got a forum where it's on it. And at the top of the page, there's a process we go through that I'm going to go off the top of my head here. We're expected to call them immediately. In my office, if we get a lead, you better call them back right away. If you're talking about what you did last night and a lead comes in and you don't call them back right away, we're going to have a discussion because I'm very sales motivated. So we call them immediately. If we don't reach them, we send them an immediate email that says we tried to reach you. We call them the next day part. And what I mean by that is if the lead came in the morning, we'll call them in the afternoon as well. Now, also important, when we call them the first time, we leave a message. Hi, it's Derek at my maid service, got a quote request. The second time we call them, we don't leave a message because you don't want 2 messages from the company on the same day. We then call them 24 hours after that. Hey, Derek at my maid service, tried to get you a quote yesterday, etc. 48 hours after that, which is 4 days after the initial lead, we try to call them again. If we don't reach them, we send them what we call our Hail Mary email, which basically says, hey, we've been trying to reach you, haven't been able to reach you. We like to do quotes over the phone, but we haven't been able to talk to you. So here is a form for you to fill out, and we'll try to quote you just off of that form. If we still don't get a response, we email them somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks after they requested the quote, just to remind them one more time, and then they get dumped into my sort of ongoing newsletter campaign. So remember, these are people I haven't even quoted. I'm just trying to get them a quote. Now, if I've actually quoted you, then I go through a whole other process. The second we hang up the phone, we send you a quote by email. And we're very adamant on that because I want to come across as a really professional company. So I want by the time you turn the computer on, boom, a quote pops up in front of you. So we email them immediately. We call them the next day. Hey, did you get the quote? Any questions? What do you think? We call them 3 days later, and then at a week, we email them. I think it's 2 or 3 weeks, we send them a coupon. And then at 6 to 8 weeks, we send them a coupon. And when at 3 months, we send them a coupon. And the reason why is that 6 weeks to 3 month period of time is very dangerous for a new cleaning service, us or other people. You haven't really built a rapport with the customer. They don't really trust you yet. So if your tech messes up or somebody calls off sick, they're going to fire you because they've got a demo size of 3. You've cleaned my house 3 times and you're not showing up. What the heck? So in that first 3 months, I just keep hitting them because you may have picked somebody else, but you're not really tied to them yet. I'm going to be trying to get you from them. Then I try them again at 6 months, and then I try them again in a year. Also, somewhere in there, I send them a handwritten note as well. I forget the exact timing, but somewhere in there they get a little handwritten note from me. So basically, thanking them for letting us give them a quote, and if they ever need anything in the future, give us a call. And for a lot of people, that feels like overkill, but it's really not. All you're trying to do is move up people's to-do list. They wouldn't have asked you for a quote if they didn't want a cleaning service. But think of how busy and crazy your life is. Our consumers' lives are really no different. You're politely reminding them that they wanted to do this anyway, and they should get it off their list and just get it done with. So that's basically all you're doing is trying to move up the list from, I should do that to, I need to do that tomorrow. Okay? Well, I want to make sure we got a chance to answer all of your questions and everything and show you everything in there. Hopefully you've learned some stuff today. Now, at this point, I want to talk a little bit about our Foundations program with you. And our Foundations of Business program is our consulting program that 3 of us offer together. You guys got to listen to me talk all day, but there's actually 3 of us. You sort of heard my background, but Tom Stewart owns Castle Keepers in Charleston. He's one of our partners, and he's sort of our operations guru. He's got probably the smoothest running company that I have ever seen, and he's bigger than me. Well, not physically, he's actually smaller than me, but his company is about twice the size of my company, and yet he operates in Charleston, South Carolina. So it's amazing to me that he's got a company that large and that professional and that small of a market. I'm kind of the sales and marketing person. You just heard me ramble on. And then those of you that don't know is Liz Trotter's basically the maid whisperer. Liz is amazing with employees. Her employees would take a bullet for her. We went out and had a meeting with her employees, and they were crying and talking about how Liz changed their life. Her employees stay with her 5, 7, 9 years on a regular basis. It's just amazing to see the type of tenure. So the three of us kind of work together. I'm sales and marketing, Tom is numbers and systems, and Liz is all about people. And between the three of us, we have over $5 million in annual revenue, 80 years of experience, a whole bunch of certifications and stuff. Now, in Foundations, we talk about the total business. So we talk about how do you get employees, how do you get customers and equipment and merge together, and what are all the back-end processes. And what's different about the Foundations program is we try to hit all parts of your business. And the reason why is Tom likes to describe it as sort of like making a cake, and it's probably the best analogy I've ever heard. If you've ever tried to make a cake and you goofed up and left the baking soda out, you know, 99% of that cake was perfect, and you were missing one ingredient, and it just died. Our businesses aren't that different. You can have 90% of everything perfect, but if one thing's out of place, it'll just kind of... And so we try to look at everything and make sure that everything's there, and it can feel kind of tedious sometimes because you'll be going through and you'll fix your employee manual and you'll have your marketing program, and people are like, Derek, it's not working yet. Derek, it's not working yet. And then suddenly one day everything takes off, and that's because we finally fixed that last little piece. Because if you don't do all of the pieces and they don't all work well together, it just doesn't come well together. So you want to go through and look at everything and make sure it works well together. Other thing we do is we give you examples of how the three of us do things differently. We're not big believers in that there's only one way to do things. I use single cleaners. Tom uses a 2-person team. Liz uses a 4-person team. I can explain to you why for each of us that was the right choice. We are different human beings. We have different strengths and weaknesses, and our businesses have been built around us and our strengths and weaknesses to utilize what we do best and to help fix what we do worst. So I can't sit here and say you absolutely positively have to do it this way. I believe in solo cleaners. Between my brother and I, we do a whole bunch of revenue with solo cleaners. Yet Tom, who I think is really bright and has a bigger business than me, uses teams. So I can't sit here and honestly tell you teams are the wrong way to go. So what we do is help you get a framework and then think about all the parts of your business and how to make them work well together with you. That's why we do all these assessments, DISC assessments and business assessments, because we're trying to figure out who you are and what you're good at and what you're bad at and how to develop all that together. So we're doing a program called Fast Start, and between August and December, we're doing all these assessments I just talked about. And it's got about a $2,500 value by the time you look at how much you'd pay to get DISC assessments and all this type of stuff done. And those of you on the call today, the little assessment we just gave you is a baby version. There's actually like a 20-page assessment for Jumpstart that we're giving out to people as well. And then after we get all these assessments done, we're going to go to Charleston together, and we're going to spend 55 hours of class time and workshops to develop customized, ready-to-implement systems. And once again, customized is really important. I'm not a big believer in that I can give you something that you take home, take out of the box, and use right away, because it has to be built around you. You can't just come and say, Derek, how do you do it, and go try to do it, because unless you've got my personality quirks and my corporate background, it's not going to work for you. You're going to end up taking a little bit from me, a little bit from Tom, and a little bit from Liz, and a whole bunch from yourself to come up with this stuff. But that's what we're going to work on you with, is we're going to spend a week basically locked together figuring this stuff out. The curriculum, if you print it all out, fills up more than these 2 binders, and we're not exaggerating about that. I know it's easy for us to stuff like that, but where did it go? Well, I had it earlier. I was on the web. This is the website that goes with Foundations program, and there's just documents after documents and resource after resource, you know, of all the things that you're going to get, and it goes on for 25 pages worth of stuff. And these are all things you download. Termination letters, I mean, from the boring to the detailed. So we've got all those resources that you're going to get if you print out, which would be more than the 3 binders worth of information. So the curriculum covers business strategy, employee life cycle, sale procedure, cleaning procedure. And you're going to go home with a bunch of stuff. One of the things that we're planning on is actually having a responsibility grid for you and your employees so everyone in your organization knows what they're responsible for. A customized cleaning procedure manual, at least one section. It's going to be hard to do the whole thing in 1 week, but at least have one section done. We're going to refine and practice your sales process. We're actually going to tape you and see how you do under the pressure of being taped so we can talk about it. We're going to design your prospect and lead nurture process, which, as you heard, I just talked about and care a lot about. We're going to help you figure out your key performance indicator calculators. That's the spreadsheet I was showing. Hiring packets, practice the best way to discipline and terminate employees, and then go through some internal work processes so that you can have that all written out. That's actually going to leave with. Then we're going to drown you in all those other things we just gave you, an annual marketing plan, an SEO calendar, and a ready-to-week implement action plan. Because when you're done with this program, we're going to send you with week by week, what are you going to be doing when you get home? Because as good as the week is going to be, you're still going to have a lot to do when you get home. And while we're there, we're going to put you in a beach house on the beach in Charleston with everyone else. So the tuition for the program includes the food, the room and board, and we're all staying in the same place. Tom, Liz, and all the students, so that you guys, the whole time we'll be networking and talking about the business. Even when we get up in the morning and you guys drink your coffee and I drink my diet soda, you'll be able to ask questions. And because failure to implement is the #1 reason why any business investment fails, 6 months of support after the program's over. Because we have all gone to events in the past and gotten all excited about it, and then we go home and nothing gets done with it. So from February through July, everyone's going to be assigned an accountability partner who's going to basically, their job is going to be to be your counterpart and make sure you stay on task. We're going to use DISC assessments to help pick your accountability partner. If you're like me, where you have a million ideas and you're very driven but you're not very focused, I'm probably going to give you a very methodical accountability partner, because I'm going to want somebody who's going to make sure you're actually getting stuff done. On the flip side, if you're a methodical person, I'm going to team you with somebody like me who's going to push you and make you maybe move a little faster than you're comfortable with. You're going to have 6 months of monthly calls with the 3 of us, where we're going to talk about your action plan. Are you on or off track? If you're off track, how are we going to fix it? Which, by the way, you're going to get off track. I do this in my business all the time. We never have a meeting where we get together and say, everything's great. The whole point of this is what's working, do more of it. What's not working, how do we fix it? A lot of people feel very uncomfortable in these calls because, well, I don't want to come tell you what's not working. That's the whole point of it. If we don't talk about what's not working, we can't fix it. And then we're going to give you membership in our private Facebook group, which is very active, not only with us, but the alumni of the previous programs, and they're in there always giving each other help and aids. We also give you all of the materials that we've created to date, the high-pep videos, the team builders, the Made Money Starter Kit, the Target Marketing Toolkit, the Core Value Deck, the books we've written, and we even throw in a Foundations class shirt because we think it's pretty snazzy. That was out of date. The schedule for the program, we've got a bunch of business assessments that we do. If you're behind, we'll help you with the assessments that you're behind to catch you up to date. And then we do the week-long Jumpstart experience in Charleston in January. The idea, and why we put it in January, is so that you can kick butt in 2015. We want you to leave and have all of 2015 to implement. So total program value, if you add it all up and what we charge for each of the things individually, is about $27,000, $28,000, but we're actually only charging $6,500 for the program. And there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can pay up front. You can go on payment plans that are weekly. We can do extended options. There's a lot of ways we can make the payment comfortable for you. But at the end of the day, it's just a question of whether or not you want to do it. It's going to be a really neat experience. We're all going to be in Charleston working on our businesses together, and then we're going to spend a year after working on it. So here's some options how to register if you're interested. You could call me. I'll be happy to take any of your calls. You can call CC at our headquarters, and that's her number and her email. And then there's some terms and conditions. Now, one thing we didn't mention is we only allow one participant in each geography. While it's great to have people in the room to brainstorm with, it's a little uncomfortable to be in a room sharing your business proposal with the guy in the same market as you. So this is first come, first serve. And in New York City, we already had a situation where we had 2 people conflict each other out. So it is possible that you could come in before your competitor or try to come in after them, and then they'll be in before you. There's a whole bunch of things I kind of skimmed through earlier, but I just kind of want to get an idea of all the materials that are included in the program. We give you policies, procedures, conduct manuals, employee programs, over benefits, every rule you can think of. You get to hear all the crazy, stupid things that happened in our business over the years so that you can learn. And Cece's now giving you my email, derek@mymaidservice.net. So I'm going to throw it open to questions one more time. As it relates to foundations, please, if you're interested, let us know. We are not hard salespeople. I honestly told someone last week they were not an appropriate person for this program, and not in a judgmental way. Different people have different goals in their business. This program is about building a foundation of a company to get big. And if you don't want a big company, it's really not the right program. And I'm not making a judgment call on that. There's a woman in my market I know who cleans 2 houses a day, and she charges $150 a house, non-negotiable. She makes, I forgot what the math was now, I think it's $50,000 a year profit with no employees. There are days that I think she's a really smart woman. Now, most of the time, I make more money than her, and I'm not cleaning houses, so I think I'm smarter. But there's nothing wrong with having a smaller company. It's just not what this program was designed for. So if you have any interest, email me, email Cece, and let us know. So any questions, Cece?
I've not gotten any final questions, but as Derek mentioned, I shared his email address and Liz's address as well in the chat box. So please feel free to get in contact with them directly, or you can call me here at the headquarters, and I can answer an awful lot of questions. I've been through now 5 different iterations of foundations with these guys, so I've got a pretty good feel for how they do things differently, and can kind of help you sort through what the program is and what it can do for you.
And I'm pretty fast at getting back on email too, Cece. I'm really quick. I'm usually right on that. So if you have something quick you want to get to.
Yep, absolutely. We certainly look forward to talking with you all. As I mentioned at the top of the webinar, you'll be receiving an email in a few minutes that contains the download of Derek's assessment that he showed you. You guys are the very first people to be getting this this assessment to kind of think through your business. We do have 2 more assessments coming up this year that will be new launches, and both of them will be coming from Tom. He'll have one next month in November on KPIs and finance, assessing those metrics in your business. And in December, he's going to hit one that I don't think I've ever seen, one on operations. So I'm really excited to see the progress of those as we get ready for those webinars. We will certainly keep you guys all on our invitation list and make sure you know when those are going to be and have an opportunity to register for them. Today's webinar has been recorded and will be up on YouTube tomorrow. So if you wanted to review anything, please look for it there, and we'll get the notification of that as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Great. Thanks, guys. Bye.